know what I mean? That they can shoot the apartment bigger than downstairs quite quick. Splash of paint. Which can still make that 7 in that grade. Everything. At him up there, he's looking at standalone small stars.
They should have got it in their back there. I don't see architecture. Have you guys got the tax levy? Oh, yeah.
They say some have 7 thermostats, 80 in there, you can do it, not the 80.
You know, it takes more than one person to put something on the agenda. Just don't put things on the agenda. It takes at least 3 people for the mayor to put something on the agenda. Well, it's a consent agenda. And we all have to be aware of what's put on it. Mark can't put something on it. It's what we're aware of.
Nothing's been, our committee, nothing's been settled until.
You advise me and I
continue to
well, but it doesn't work into if something has to be signed. And then we have to have something signed for 3 minutes. To get something on the list. It's called a consent agenda.
Well, this is our, this was, this shows us.
Okay.
What's it if we, because you have that.
See, that was the first time in your right.
Yeah, I remember.
Outlets,
It's already been made.
Well, we can.
I don't know why it was on the agenda, I guess.
I think it was already in the red twice.
Something on the agenda means that you can take a vote on it. The only reason we need it, the only reason we have the agenda is something that we voted upon. For open discussion, you can put anything, you can bring anything forth that you wish as chairman. Anything. As chairman. I mean, that was your report. The only reason for the agenda is open discussion. There's no way we didn't vote.
But that's the only
No problem, I just, I was confused because I just.
Okay.
He noticed that, he knows what
You can bring it up. But if you are often that's the dirty laundry.
To put it in?
Yeah, I don't know what you're, what code you're using, because I didn't have session. Normally, because it was on the agenda. Every council person does not voted on it.
That's only for the
Table was 30 days, and a second table.
Just discuss it. Debbie has chairs.
Oh, yeah.
Can't bring it in. It's gotta go through discussion.
No, I.
And then we can get it on.
I mean, eventually,
I think we need to make decisions on next month's agenda.
See, I think we could just say that we didn't ask just on the meeting, but then.
Well, if you ask 3 people, so 50% of it is we're in debt. Technically, the simplest thing is for Debbie to be that you guys fix something. I got an email. But technically, that's the way back then. That way we all
Like it,
yeah, something.
it's expensive, and,
You guys feel that we get different police and you should see
it's make these it's got some personal, it's
executive
I'll check to see.
because when it's voted on,
Have the issue come up.
The agenda is for an item that could be action. Start something. Police car.
Available. So people can see something like that.
Maybe just look at these radios, that's me. You can discuss it, you can recommend it. Four places, yeah. So it's not necessarily vote.
When there is a committee meeting,
Chairman.
they need 2 minutes.
As chairman. As to the heat, you bring
Get something on the agenda. It has to have its consent.
Just keep it.
We don't have to have an agenda. Yes.
You can move. You can move from that and if you can just, for example, if you want to discuss it, that's.
Yes, yes.
You're a busy boy, you could see it's discuss that. Just move, it's a person, discuss it.
If we get down to that item, you could ask for an executive session to discuss that. And you could say, I'd like to discuss an executive session. We vote on
Via cycle.
it. Yeah. And we go to an executive session, we talk about personnel. Okay, Gordon. I'd like to ask you to join the pledge of flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Minutes of the regular meeting of October 8th have been distributed. If you have not had a chance to review them and need more time to review them, we will do so now. Does anyone need extra time to review the minutes? If not, we will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Well, I have, okay, under the unfinished business,
Yes.
attorney report, where it says Fahrenbacher and Rob Henry will go over the water and sewer ordinance that Attorney Fahrenbacher prepared. I think it
Yeah.
just said tax levy.
Oh, tax levy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, I should say tax levy.
So, what's tax levy?
Because we didn't go over the water.
No.
And then he just read the proposed ordinance,
Yes, you did.
but it doesn't, I think it should say he read the proposed ordinance from the ordinance
Yeah,
committee.
Fahrenbacher did.
Mhm. Yes, he did.
Any other changes, additions, or corrections?
Under cemetery rules, did you guys look Ross Campbell's name?
Okay, no, we're in, well, how do you spell it then?
It's E-R, K-A-M-E-R-E-R.
Yes.
Anything else?
I guess the only thing I'm confused about is on the last page. Okay, you got in here twice about the motion. You see where it says discussion, Rob, then you got, made a motion to postpone it, but we did all the discussion and then you got it down there again. Did you want it, did second Rob's motion to postpone?
Right at the bottom, yeah.
Yeah, you got it. Probably your Rob made a motion should be down.
Well, he might have said it and then nothing, oh, I see.
Because it was a motion to postpone, so.
Okay, so that should just be gone from up on the top part.
And put it down below, I think that one.
Just leave it there.
So what is that line to read?
Well,
Just
this should
exactly
be down.
what-
It's just, I had it twice.
Yes, I see that.
Let's cross that out and we'll second it down here.
Or take that,
Either one. I mean,
that paragraph and just put it down
Just
below.
down.
Is that
Right,
the
right,
way the,
You can do it either way. it goes.
the
Let
first
you
one
look
sounds
at it.
better? Rob made a motion. to put it
Right,
down.
right. So we're deleting that line?
No, we're moving. Oh, the last one, that one, yeah.
Two has too many voters in line above. Mr. Chairman made a motion two. I would have done better in college if I had spell check back in those days.
But it doesn't catch that. If it's a word, if it's a word.
Of course, I'd been hanging out with Donna, I probably would have got my master's degree in something flat. Helping me with my papers. It wasn't bad, it was always my downfall, I could write them, but it was bad. Full of typos. Actually, if we're going to do this right, should we do it much more cheaply? If we're using an adjective, we should have had an adverb.
Well, we found something else.
But it depends on how Jason said it. If Jason used the proper grammar, then it's correct. But knowing Jason, I bet he said cheaply, which would have been correct. It would have been an adverb instead of adjective. Do it much more cheaply. Grace Kelly and Mrs. Davies are watching me from somewhere.
That must be
Mrs. Davies did you know Mrs. Davies? Brandon's teacher? Better get your verb tense right.
We would name it unless somebody thinks of something else.
Anything else? Entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay.
Call vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. City clerk's cash receipt report.
Total cash receipts for the month of October, $199,903.69.
And that would include the last half of our taxes and our TIF tax. Any questions? Did you guys get a copy? Jason, did you get a copy? Motion approved.
I make a motion that we approve.
Rob? Don?
Nice.
Seconds? Call vote.
Aye.
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 Reports from city employees and committee chairs. Shane, got a report for us this evening?
Short one. We're putting in that storm sewer to the library. We'll finish tomorrow. No sidewalk will be replaced this fall. We did have another small leak on our repairs at the water plant. Took out some electrical. It's reflected in the Menards bills. We've done some work there. But everything's up and running. Mike and Rob did a nice job plumbing that, saved the city close to $20,000 on the estimate. I appreciate their work. Appreciate Mark notifying us of that situation at about 10 o'clock at night. We also had a sewer in the last 30 days that runs from Main Street at Union, which is the 6 mile, crossed over to Jefferson Street that backed up. I was out of town, Mike and Rob stayed out till 2 in the morning and fixed that. We got it open, but it's a manhole that's losing some bricks, so we will have to address that in the Water and Sewer Committee meeting as to what action you'll want to take on that, because we definitely don't want to be out there in the dead of winter fighting that again. The problem seems to be in the back property of Kinney and Janine Street matters. Will require us to dig, but we just need to get caught up on the next committee meeting as to how far we want to go with that particular project. Water meters continue to go in. Teresa and Barb done a nice job at that. I appreciate the effort of the Water and Sewer Committee on the 2 ordinances tonight that you'll be reviewing. It should make everybody on the same page and make it run a lot smoother for you. So unless you have any other questions for me, that's in the last 30 days in the water and sewer. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Shane. I wish that we could somehow illustrate what a wonderful job you guys have been doing the last couple of years. I just don't think anyone in the community or even here on the council realizes how good a job Shane and his crew have been doing at handling our water and sewer problems. We do have a very old system, 100 years old, a lot of problems. That Union Street sewer, 91 and 17, is a problem. It's going to be a problem, and they've done a marvelous job of keeping things patched together and running. You know, keep in mind that it's very old, and a lot of that stuff has not been maintained well, and much of it needs to be replaced. But all the credit, really, a lot of credit goes to Shane and Mike and Rob and the guys who've been doing this work and putting in the hours and keeping our costs down and keeping the sewer and water running. Thank you. We all owe you a debt of gratitude on that, Shane. Mark, a report from you?
I have a report. I gave it up the last meeting we had.
Okay.
So I didn't bring mine in because
Okay, Barb?
somebody has it from.
Nothing from you? Okay, well then we'll go from the employees to the committee chairs. I'd like to remind everybody that the committee chairs have the opportunity, obligation, the right to bring up anything that concerns their committee and concerns what's going on, and we can discuss it. We can discuss anything at these meetings. The agenda simply is a vehicle whereby we notify the public that we may intend to vote on something which may incur expense or city funds. However, we can discuss about anything. And when the committee chairs find things that they want to discuss, they have every right to do so. And if those things have to do with individuals, they can request, if it has to do with employees, they can request executive sessions to discuss employees that fall within the area of that committee's responsibility. So really, and I want to give a lot of credit here to Debbie, who's done a lot of work on the police committee. Rob has done a lot of work with the finance. I know Misty's been working hard in the parks, and Tommy's been doing a great job with water. We've got some committee chairs here that have really been putting in the hours, and that's what we need to get the information in. But this is an opportunity for the chairs to toss this stuff out, so at least it's out there, and we can discuss it, and the community can respond to it. Anything from the water and sewer, Don?
Other than the fact that we had a committee meeting on October 18th at the City Hall. All the committee was present, plus Shane and Barb was there. And we had the discussion on the billing procedures and the delinquent procedures were being put on the agenda to
Okay.
discuss.
Misty, Parks.
Park Committee also met on October 18th, and I believe we probably still will just fall under the TIF budget to have a decision.
So when we discuss TIF, you guys are going to have a presentation with costs and budgets and a blueprint of what it is you want.
Nothing's really changed since our initial meeting in November 2010, that the initial decision was based off of.
Well, it seems that we have a new council for the most part, and the community is very interested in this, and these things have not somehow made it into the light of the day. So we really look forward to getting a complete presentation on what it is we intend to do and what the timeline is.
And we did go through all of that at the Park Committee meeting.
Don? Anything from that?
Cemetery committee meeting in on the cemetery.
Okay, nothing from the cemetery rules. Rob?
I will, Bruce and I met, and we will be talking about our tax levy. So we are, though, much better shape going in now with our final numbers in than we've been in the past, going into the winter and into next spring with our general fund. So I'm pleased with that, and actually a lot of the hard work, things that you've done, that we've gotten in line, but we are kind of getting the corner turned again, though we always talk about it, that the state hiccups a lot, but we are in the black and should stay reasonable to the, but again, barring any unforeseen things coming up.
We're getting better. We got our head above water, but not a lot. Thank you. Carly, anything from the streets?
No, yeah, no.
Okay, Debbie, please.
Okay, we had several things that we discussed at our meeting, which was November 7th. First, the most important thing I think right now is equipment. We have got to do an upgrade on radios by January 1st. Our officers did get some numbers for us. Mark, if I go off track, please feel free to correct me. It seems like we have to do some duplication of equipment because what we want is VHF, correct? And what the county has is UHF?
The county runs off of UHF and everybody else runs off of VHF.
Okay.
So we actually have to have 2 radios in the squad so that we can speak to state police, ISPER, and that kind of thing, and communicate with other villages.
And if I'm correct, you quoted $2,100 to $2,200, $21 to $2,200.
That'd probably be a total, that'd probably be a high total here. I come down a little bit, so
Okay.
that'd be a high total.
He did speak to 2 different providers, Radio Ranch out of Rock Falls, and was it the guys in Galesburg?
Yeah, Galesburg and also Peoria. Most of the guys couldn't even squeeze us in. Radio Ranch is the only company that'll actually come straight down to us because everybody in the entire state's switching over. And we're kind of falling into this a little behind everybody else, so we just don't want to take the time off for us.
So that's something that has to be done.
Yeah, let's take that.
So
Can you break that $2,100 or $2,200 down? What
I
it is that
do
we
have a
need?
list of what he got the quote from Radio Ranch.
VHF 50 watt, 395, UHF 45 watt, 380. Those are the 2 new radios that we
We
need.
need 2 new radios, so you're around
Okay.
400 apiece.
We've got a couple of antennas there for $10 and $12, $35. we're almost up to $700 there. Batteries, $48 each, $35, $45 each. There's labor. Oh, that's pretty soon we have to find the big nut. Remove old radios, install new radios, and check antennas. One of the old radios, remote heads, we need to have coax go up to the console. Program radios, $575. So basically, what we're looking at is 2 new radios, $380 and $395. Now, apparently, we don't have a choice.
That's a lower price. They've got some radios that are 700 to 1,300 a piece. We don't need that.
Now, of course, it's my understanding that in public safety and maintenance, basically we can act off a recommendation of the police committee. And if the police committee wants to recommend this, then we go ahead with this, we can. If you'd like to ask for a vote, we can do that as well. You did put it on the agenda as police equipment. It would pretty much, you said you'd like to have a vote?
No, I think it needs to be under the new business.
Save it for new business?
Yeah.
Would you rather do that and save it for a vote? Or just, what is your recommendation on this?
Well, we recommend it, we recommend moving forward with that as soon as possible.
Okay, we do need to get this done. We've got to do it before the end of January. Okay. All right. Anything else on that? Jim, could you weigh in on this radio thing for us? I know you're on top of this.
Well, 2 things. I think he saved you a lot of money by not going overboard with the radio, because a lot of the squad cars around here have 100-watt radios, and he actually called me for some phone numbers for who we use, which they're booked up. So I think what he has there is a phenomenal deal for the radios. As a matter of fact, I want to get that guy's number and maybe look at a couple things for us. Radio guys are expensive. Supreme out of Peoria charges around $95 an hour to install. So, and those radios, what they quoted is not a bad price. And the nice thing is, like when I talk to Mark, you're only talking in town and in the county, so they say 1 watt goes a mile, so those radios should reach 50 miles. So
Do I take that as an unqualified thumbs up?
What's that?
Do I take that as an unqualified thumbs up?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Mr. Mayor, real quick again, Mark, was it, we have VHS in the city,
We have VHF, that's what.
VHF,
Our UHF is what Stark County uses to communicate. VHF is what everybody else in the state uses to communicate.
okay, yeah, okay.
So right now, I can't hear
But
Stark County,
I just wanted to add it down.
but if I leave the town for any reason, I can't talk to Kewanee, Bureau County, Marshall County, I can't talk to anybody.
Yeah, and we need,
I'm sure you guys all heard, I mean, we have a few pursuits already. Luckily, I've never had to leave town, because if I do, I have to pull my cell phone out and start talking off of that, because the radio won't communicate with anybody.
maybe a dumb
Yes.
question. Oh, go ahead. Maybe a dumb question, why, if everybody else is, why is our county on UHF?
It's not a dumb question, it's an embarrassing question, but nothing that we had anything to do with here,
Right.
put it that way. We're unlucky.
So they have to have 2 radios too, I take it?
Yes.
Right, okay.
Everybody.
I don't know how to answer that delicately. But
Well, I
the
wasn't trying to
county
embarrass you.
made some decision here some years ago to do this. And I think that we have the only county that has its own radio band. Is that right, Mark?
It's the only person I know that runs UHF.
We're the only county
Stark
that
County.
we're aware of that has UHF radios.
Wow.
Why, I don't know.
But it is, okay, so it is, so we'll have to.
And I went a little cheaper on UHF radio because we only need 1 channel. Some of these radios give you 50 channels, 100 channels plus. We only need 1 channel. So
Okay.
I went a little cheaper on the radio just to have the sheriff's department in it.
Yeah. Do we have 2 radios now?
We have 2 radios in the truck that need to be tested. That's also kind of part of the bid. They're going to be tested to make sure it's narrow banded. It's just a frequency, the way they program it. The squad only has 1 radio, and it's not even narrow banded. So as of January 1st, I won't be allowed to push the key up button on it without a $10,000 fine.
I believe that this goes back many years. Some of you may remember when the federal government mandated this after 9/11, that we had these different bands lines so that their communications with the police department, various emergency personnel can communicate. And it goes that far back. This is already 10 years old. The federal government made this mandate. Teresa, do you have something for that?
I just want to know, did the Stark County have to switch over to this VHF then by the first?
They're gonna
No.
stay with what they have, they just have to be narrow banded, they already are narrow banded. It's just a type of frequency. It's just the radio that's in the car can't be narrow banded, it's that old. I can't even tell you how old it is, but I've never used one like that in a squad car I've ever been in. So it's before my time.
If anyone has a question and you'd like to direct it to someone, please, when you ask your question, say that you direct it to someone so that they, who's supposed to answer. Rob, did you have something
No,
else?
no.
Okay. Go ahead with your police report.
Okay, everybody's done discussing radios. The other thing that we really want to move forward with, and if we can, when time allows, as soon as possible, is the taser. We feel it's important that our officers have something that they can help protect themselves with that may be a little less lethal than their sidearms. Most departments around us have one. We would like to move forward with that.
Do you have information so that you can make a motion in the equipment portion in the new
We
business?
have information.
Okay. So you're ready for the motion and the equipment to make a motion on the taser and the radio? Okay. Anything else?
Yes, actually, we do. Mark did bring up the fact that he thinks it would be advantageous to our police department if we set up a drug fund similar to what the county has, so that when we do make a drug arrest in the city, our department can benefit from some of that fine money. I guess there's a percentage that we could get that our department could use.
Do you have any information on that?
I asked the state's attorney, and he told me to take it from the council first to follow the legal part of it.
And the legal part is?
I guess us bringing it up, I don't know how to go any further besides talking
Yeah,
to
I'm
the
not
state's
sure,
attorney.
it wasn't discussed with me, I'd have to look, but it may be just necessary for you to establish a fund, but I better take a look at it.
Yeah, I don't know how
He
to
didn't give me any
establish
more
that.
information than that.
It's just the state's attorney, he just told me to do this, to bring it up first.
Could we possibly get this information together so that by December we have something specific to discuss?
And the only other thing is basically a report that our radar unit has been recertified and is good to go.
Super.
Anything else I've left out?
I'd like to add that when our radars were certified, there was no adjustment done to it, and they were fine before they even walked in the door.
Okay.
There are a few people that tried saying that maybe it was uncertified, maybe the tickets that were written might not have stood up. He didn't have to do any calibrations to it. All he had to do was test it and put a sticker on it.
Would you like to request an executive session later to discuss personnel? You could say that, yes.
Okay.
Request it, yes.
I would like to request an executive session later to discuss police department personnel.
Okay.
What you would need is somebody to make a motion and a second.
And a second, we have a second? Police committee, okay. Motion and a second for executive session. We'll schedule that a little farther down here. We need to vote on that? Okay, let's call a vote for that.
Aye.
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 Okay. Tell me,
I should leave it about a quarter till. I can't remember, but.
6
Well, the only thing I need, that I had really was tax levy. So,
okay.
whenever.
All right, well, Bruce has got to leave early tonight, he has another meeting. So we're going to, if it's all right with the council, we'll jump over here to the tax levy, which is actually our new business. I believe it was brought up last month in Friday business, but let's get to the tax levy so we can get that out of the way while Bruce still is with us. Rob, you and Bruce both prepared that, I'll give it over to you.
Bruce and I met about 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago, and went over last year and then the new year. And of course, we're locked in on two different areas. When this is what we're levying to bring in on our money, our levied amounts, but corporate and police protection have a set rate, and they cannot be altered. And going down the list, what we levied and what was extended, what we actually received was pretty close. And we went over with our budget, what we've done so far this year and where we're sitting on the different amounts on in our description here for audit, Social Security, IMRF, such things, and came up with our figures, in which case we have only increased, I'll go over everything, and I don't know, you guys don't have a copy, but we have, we've levied $34,000 for our corporate, and we have levied $26,000 for IMRF. That was an increase of $3,000. City streets, we've kept the same at 12,300. Police protection is locked in at 8,600. Our audit, we were a little bit low last year. We've increased that from 7,000 to 8,000. Social Security, we were a little low. We've increased from 19,500 to 20,500. And our insurance was fine, and we kept that at 31. So our total levy amounts would be $140,400, an increase of about 3%. And we are looking, our taxable amount, in talking to the county, they didn't get their figures. Talking to Debbie a couple of weeks ago, their figures are a little slow coming in. We shouldn't see a lot of change with property values. Now, some cases they've dropped, they've stayed about the same, but there not much activity within the city. So we're going to should be just about right on the same amount. We hope.
I wish you hadn't said that.
Yeah. I have confidence we will be very close.
Bruce?
Yeah, I would just say the same that we did. People understand a little bit better. For example, in the two funds that he's talking about where there's a rate limit, public fund has a rate limit of 0.303% and police protection 0.075%. And last year we had levied $35,000. We received, for the extension, was slightly over $33,000. So backing off actually at $34,000, but a little bit closer.
Yeah.
So you're only going to get what that maximum rate is in those two funds, and the same with police protection. And then we went through actual budget items to see where more funds would be should be levied if possible. And just one reason is you can't, if you levy something for the audit, that's all that money is for. So you don't want it over levy and build up a fund. You can't use that for anything but audit. And the same with the other items. In some cases like police protection, we're obviously not going to get very close to paying for that. We're levying $8,600, substantially more than that. But do the best we can with these others.
So in other words, that's why, even though our cash on hand is minus 13,000 in the audit, that's why you're not raising it.
We are raising it.
Well, okay, but it's minus 13,000 and you're only doing 8. because you're gonna pick up the other 4
Right.
someplace else.
Well, we have to. The other
And the
item,
reason why, because of the fact.
that particular, in the audit, you could actually levy the full amount it costs for an audit. But you would have to, if you go above 105%, you're gonna have to do the taxation.
Right,
So-
and this is only at 100 and, what did you say?
About 3%, about 103%.
103.
So we did raise that because the expense is greater than what we were levying, and same with Social Security
Okay.
and insurance. Well, actually, insurance is a lot the same. Sorry. But substantial, that's probably, that was a spot where the biggest increase went. So.
Do we have any other questions on
It's times like this, I'm absolutely thrilled to have Don Leffler on city council. Because I think she understands all she knows about that. Because the rest of us aren't so sure. It's kind of esoteric, you know, for the layman out there.
So if I may
it?
add,
Okay, she's got it.
when I'm looking at the police protection levy, and it says 8,600,
Yes,
what does that mean to you?
that's what we
What
like.
part of the police budget?
Any part of it.
Any part that you like.
Right.
But
What
that's
part
one,
would you like to spend it on?
That's,
yeah, you would need to spend it, that $8,600, which obviously is more expense than $8,600 in police protection, so. But that $8,600 would be spent on protection, so.
That's what we left,
So that's the amount that's dedicated, I don't know.
dedicated
Right.
to police.
It is dedicated for
Yes,
that.
yes.
And it has a rate limit by statute, so even though that obviously is insufficient, that's the most we can get from a property tax levy.
I think this is something that has bothered me for many years as well. You look at the levy and you say, well, gee, that's what the law has set up. That's what we're supposed to levy, that's what we're supposed to spend. But actually, in reality, we spend about 6 times or 7 times that amount. The difference has to come from general revenue. So we have to make up what we're spending out of someplace else.
Where the issue comes in is, and this happens, and I see, I guess mainly with audit, is where the levy, after so many years, builds up to, let's say their audits run, say, $4,000 a year, and now suddenly they have, after 10 years, they have $30,000 in this fund, but can't find, they don't actually have the $30,000, so actually the general fund owes the audit fund, and then you get into accounting problems. At some point, the comptroller will say, put levy for the audit, just until you've spent that money down, so try to avoid that happen.
Bruce, could you real quick again explain why corporate and police, that was set up?
That's why statute.
A statute has limited them to that.
Statute provides a rate limit, so what it is, you take the assessed value of all the property in the city of Toulon, which they determined for 2011, 10 million, almost 11 million, and you multiply 0.303% times that, and that's why we levied 35,000. They extended and they applied that rate, 33,000. Part of our problem is we don't know absolutely what the assessed value is going to be in 2012. It's, those numbers are, we can't get a hard number. We can only get what that we, the supervisor says, so it's not much of that.
What's really interesting to me about this is that most of our levies do seem to match up, marry up fairly well with our expenses, with the exception of police. Now, if we were a large city, those levies would match up with the budget. So what people fail to sometimes comprehend is how much of our budget, what percent we actually spend on something like police versus what our levies versus what a big city spends. The amount of dollars that we spend per capita on police protection would make Chicago look silly. We spend probably $4 to $5 per person more than they do. But because we have such a small community, one policeman for 1,200 people, Chicago certainly does not have one policeman for 1,200 people. They have one policeman for about 12,000 people. So they spread this cost out over a much broader area. We don't have that luxury. And that's why some of these things almost look comical when you look at them. Any other questions on the levy? Rob, would you like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we pass the annual tax levy ordinance for 2012 as presented.
I second it.
Call vote.
Aye.
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 Thank you. Gives me a great comfort about that.
Just, someone get that in there.
Right. Okay, we've been bouncing around. I think the last place we left off was approval of submitted claims. I believe Rob met with Shane this morning and we went through the claims on the city. Rob?
We did, going down, some of the bigger ones we have two with Menards, 854, 73, and 72. Again, that's the water project, and Shane explained that we had another leak. Another big one, pavement maintenance service, was 18,977. That was our streets, our resurface on the streets that we had done, and then from our motor fuel tax. We did, just to throw it out here, I know at one point that the police car we're using again, we have a Hodges on here for $165.80, basically replaced the front end. I believe I don't know, I think we were told that the car could never.
Yes, one time we told it was no good, yeah.
And they did a great job, and hopefully that's taken care of the problem. The other big one, Better Banks, $52,662.50 was a bond payment for the water. So. Any questions on that? And of course we have our payroll and then our income list. So if no questions, I make a motion. Oh,
I got one question.
yes.
Okay, now that Bruce is gone, how, was that for 1 month, 3 months?
No, I
just-
believe that's 6 months.
Okay.
It's semi-annual bond payment,
Yeah.
right,
Is
Shane?
that what they do?
No, the attorney is what she's referring to,
No, I'm
right?
talking about the attorney.
The attorney,
Oh, the attorney.
6 months.
yeah, 6 months.
I didn't.
Yeah, sorry. And I meant down.
How much was it again, 6 months?
His bill.
About $500,000, no.
Half a million.
2,500.
It's 2,500.
2,500.
No, we'll note that our attorney bills have been reduced considerably.
But I just was, since I
Yes.
hadn't
No.
seen this before, I
Good
just.
question, yeah.
Yeah.
Donna, real quick, I mean, since we hadn't seen this, we also have our PDC laboratories. We have the RO system HD Supply Water Works, those are all chemicals and things that we have to do on
I figured that.
a monthly basis. If no other questions.
I think you made a motion.
I made a motion.
To approve.
I'll second it.
Okay, any other discussion? Call vote then.
Aye. Aye.
I'll do it out of order, aye.
Well, I guess that's enough to pay the bills. Just, you know, absent there. Oh, she's back. Approve the bills, Misty? Aye, okay. All right, this delinquent water bill thing, Donna, kind of makes me crazy. I thought we were past discussing delinquent water bills at the council meeting. Shane, aren't we pretty well set up on that now?
We will after the vote
We will
tonight.
after the thing. I did not get, did anyone else get a list of the delinquent water bills?
I apologize for that. We went ahead and tagged and took it into procedure without coming here.
Okay.
Everybody's
But
tagged and ready to show up.
I would like to see the, from the previous,
And I
what it was.
I put one bill too on there.
Everything was tagged on the old system.
This is the, what was at the end of, on the 6th.
This one went out on Thursday. It followed the old procedure.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't think that's, I think this is a new subject for right now. Because we've got a contract for the water bill procedure things.
We need to vote on the shut this month.
Are you've already tagged all these?
Yes.
And there really isn't anything, because once they're tagged, they're going to be shut off.
We need to vote. I don't think we do.
I don't think so, but I could say, I make a motion that all the delinquent accounts that were tagged will be shut off in
Tomorrow at noon.
tomorrow at noon.
Okay, second? Don, any discussion?
What is all the list that you made last month? You read off the whole bunch?
Yeah, if I
You know,
can,
it's
basically what.
not that it makes any difference.
Yeah,
but-
you're gonna review an ordinance tonight that changes this dramatically, and this is the 90-day list, which we're going to wait on,
This is
which
the last
Don
time
will
we do
explain.
this.
Yeah.
So everybody got tagged just to protect yourself, but after you vote, you will have an ordinance then that simplifies it and doesn't require you monthly to do it because it'll just be an ordinance. So, but we did protect ourselves, tag this month.
Okay.
If we'd have done it the meeting last week, we would have had it in place already.
But to answer your question, though, there may be some different names on there than last month.
There are business.
We have a motion, we have a second. Shut off. We have a question. Any further comment on the shut off for this month? If not, we'll call a vote then.
Aye.
Okay, we're shut off. All right, we're moving down now back into the unfinished business area where we briefly dealt before. Don, you said that we had nothing further on the cemetery rules, is that correct? Okay. Now, the ordinance for temporary disconnect of city services. This is, I guess, shall we call, it would be like the federal government called the snowbird ordinance? Is that what we're doing up there?
Okay,
Or we have a different one?
can I will just, the reason why I put it on the unfinished business is because I was under the impression that we read an ordinance, wanted it passed, and before it went into effect, it was published at City Hall, and then came back to the council to read as it is final, just in case there was someone in the community who wasn't here, could object to it, and that's why I put it on.
Okay. I guess that would be a procedural thing, and that's fine too, if we want to do that. And nothing wrong with doing that, publishing these things. Do we need to do anything further with that?
Unless someone heard any objection, I say no.
Then no action would be required.
No, but the reason why I did put it on there, because I thought it was the idea that it was supposed to be read twice.
I think, Shane, you're nodding. You know something.
I believe an ordinance is to be read twice.
Does it really? And 2 successive meetings? I've not ever seen that in the revised statutes, but, I mean, that could be a fact, but is that a procedure that we would adopted, or would that be on the state level?
I thought it was in the Illinois Municipal League book that you had first reading, discussion, print, and then just the same procedure that all in one.
Or any ordinance?
That was my understanding.
That's why I thought it was, that's why I put it on there.
Well, I don't know about we, but there have been a lot of ordinance passed in previous years that just basically came up.
I'm sure Bruce would know the correct answer.
I think it's a great idea.
Gives everybody a chance to-
We ought to find some way to put that in our operating procedures so that everybody's on board with that, that an ordinance needs to be read and given 2 hearings. We'll look into that.
Okay. But that is why, because I thought it was supposed to be read once.
Well, we've passed a lot of resolutions here. Resolutions
And
are
resolutions are different.
Resolutions are sometimes necessary and sometimes just sort of one.
Right.
Feel part of the process. Okay. We're last item on unfinished business is TIF budget. I don't know that there's anything new to bring up or offer on the TIF budget. I haven't been aware of anything, made aware of anything. Teresa, have you got anything new or different?
Nope, there's nothing new.
Say that.
The library is 7,100. I don't know what was on the last one. I think it was 6,000 or 12,000. And it's getting done at 7,100.
So the library still has an open request for $7,100.
No, it's as a city project dealing with the library.
If we pay for it through TIF, it will cost us $7,100. And what will that include?
There again, Mayor, that includes the entire project, pipe, labor, the whole 9 yards.
Does that include putting the sidewalk back?
No, it does not. It's the storm tile, but the storm tile also now serves, as Mike can testify to, 3 catch basins that Mike hooked on for the city's use. We put big enough piping that not only does it drain the holding pond, he now has 3 catch basins on Jefferson we didn't have to help drain Jefferson Street. So that's being installed, and I did have a discussion with you, and I did discuss briefly with Rob that that is MFT eligible too, now that it has the catch basins on it to drain the streets. So we'll leave it up. If the TIF comes back, then we'll make the reimbursements. If the TIF doesn't come back, we plan on asking the finance to look at it as a motor fuel tax project.
Well, the project is, for all intent and purposes, fait accompli, right? It's done.
Yeah, all tomorrow will be
All
done.
done. So I mean, what we're discussing here then is how we shall pay for it.
Right, and I believe I spoke to finance this morning, and I don't want to put words in finance, but I believe he agreed too that we could run it through motor fuel tax and not put the burden on the general fund.
Well, I'm a little bit skeptical of the motor fuel tax in as much as that fund is fairly well depleted as it is. We have not much in motor fuel tax, and our streets are in dire need of repair.
Well, that's why Mike put the catch basins in there, is because until we get the water off Jefferson, we'll never hold the street.
Right. Well, it is TIF eligible though, that's my understanding.
Both, yes, it's both MFT, TIF, and general. It's 3 options.
So if we don't do something, we either pay for it out of motor fuel or general fund. Correct.
Correct.
All right, so what we have the opportunity to do is to defray the cost of this to the general fund and motor fuel, freeing those funds up for other purposes, which are not TIF eligible, correct? Do I have a motion? And then we're going to have a discussion after a motion if you wish. We have a motion to make this project TIF eligible, to pay the $7,100 of this project with TIF revenue. Teresa?
I just wanted to tell you the TIF balance is $77,798.80.
Thank you.
So you know where you're at
Thank you.
to go from.
So we do have the funds, and we can use these funds to defray the cost of this library drainage. Is anyone interested in making such a motion?
Okay, I have a
Yes,
point
please.
of order. Okay, since we have a motion on the floor that we tabled from last, when we postponed it,
Yes.
okay, do we have to do that first, or do we?
I don't know that this matters, but if it would,
I'm asking,
if it would make you more comfortable, we could go back to that.
I'm just
So that'll
asking.
give us a clearer
All
amount.
right,
of
let's
what's
go back to
left.
that one then.
I just don't know.
What is that motion? We can read it. Well,
Motion to,
except Rob made a motion to postpone the motion.
it's
So we have-
it's right in the motion to.
Misty made a motion to leave 7,000 previously voted on committed to the park, the remaining TIF money going to the library. 70,000, yes, leave 70,000, and the remaining funds, which is 7,000 and,
$77,798.80.
so you'd be, if that motion were acted upon, we would be committing 7,798 cents to the library project. Is that correct?
No, because we have other, I believe we have other, possibly 2 other commitments. We have 1,000, right.
Right, but if that motion, I think what I said, and clarify if I made a mistake, I think what that motion says is we take 70,000 and leave it committed to the park, and take $7,700.98.
$7,798.80.
$7,798 and commit that $7,798.
My motion at the last meeting was that we maintain the 70,000 that was previously committed to the park, and that whatever that dollar figure was that was left after we paid things we had already committed to.
That's what would be left
That's
for
what my
the,
motion actually was.
for the library, and it would be around,
Because there was still like a $1,500 TIF administrator fee that hadn't been done
Okay.
yet either.
Let's stay in order here. So what we have, and it seems fairly clear, the motion says, the motion that was made is to leave 70,000 for the park and take the surplus from our balance, subtracting the 70,000, correct? We subtract 70,000 from our balance, is that correct, Missy? We have 798 and change. We subtract 70,000 from that, leave it in the park, leave it dedicated to the park, and commit 7,700, no.
But that was my motion.
Teresa?
Her motion is correct, what she said, but I will tell you, Misty, since then, we paid $500 to the TIF administrator, and we did pay $1,500 to Stark County Economics. So that's why the balance is now $77,798.80.
$77,98. Say the number again.
$77,798.80.
7779880.
80. All right.
Got it?
Okay. Shane?
Yes, in my meeting this morning with finance, Rob and myself were talking about this. The 77,798.80 would have $1,000 of administration fees to come out, which would leave you $6,798.
So it's still
above the
$1,000 come out.
$70,000. But me and Rob looked at the figures and thought $6,000 was the share of the TIF, because the other $1,100 is the additional arms that are coming off for the catch basin and things like that. You know, which is TIF eligible, but I mean, Rob, didn't we talk about
6,000, yeah, we weren't, in the meeting before, correct me if I'm wrong too, but the motion wasn't that everything left after the 70 for the park. That wasn't all dedicated to the library at all.
Correct.
I mean, not at all.
No.
We had 1,500 at the time, and we have forgotten one more thing. We would have another payment to economic development of 1,500 before the new TIF year starts in April. So you've got 1,000 and you've got 1,500. So you've got 2,500 of that 7,798 if that's what's left. You'd have 25 out of that, so you'd have approximately $5,500 or so.
$5298.80.
What's that, Teresa, please?
$5298.80.
So what you're saying is total uncommitted funds is $5298.80.
Correct.
All right, thank you. That's the number we're looking for. $5298.80 is the total uncommitted funds at this point in the TIF. Now, the TIF funds, still tax money. This council can spend it as they see fit. It's tax dollars for the good of the community. It originally was sold to the community, sold to the library, sold to the school, sold to the county as a means whereby we would increase tax revenue to the community by doing projects which would bring in more tax base. A good example would be River's Daisy. We did give them some TIF incentive. They are producing a lot of sales tax revenue. A bad example would be money that we gave, for example, to the car wash, which produces zero revenue, zero jobs. This is what we sold the community on in 2006. I think only Don is left on that council. So that's where we stand today. Now, how you, as a council, vote to spend this money is up to you. It's not up to me. I get to vote, thank goodness, but I'm only one of 7 votes. Yes, Tom?
Question, okay. I don't, is the Stark County economic and the administrator fees, have already been voted on and they've already earmarked? Why would any of them been paid? Because last time they said nothing was going to get paid.
Barb, do you recall, or Teresa, do you recall when the vote was made? I believe it was by Larry, and I think we're going back many, many months on the Stark County development, sorry, Rich, Stark County economic development, how we were going to address the $6,000 contribution.
I believe the Stark County Economic Development, I think it was to be addressed at each meeting.
At each quarter.
Right.
At each quarter.
Each payment.
So that 15 may not be live.
But the administrators,
been paid.
the administrators'
The
fee
last
was
one, the last one was, but I'm talking,
There's another quarter due in January.
there's another quarter due in January.
Yes, Connie?
Is that where we're down to the 52,000?
No,
5,200.
Or
5,200.
Okay, 5,200, I mean. But I mean, we started, last meeting, didn't we have, how much money?
It's
did we have?
$79,798 today.
We paid $1,500 to the
Out of that 77,
out of the 79,
out of the 79,
we paid $1,500 to the economic,
Okay.
which should have been really paid back in August or
Okay.
September. And 500 more was paid to the TIF administrator.
okay,
Which is
so
me.
that's where we got down to the 77, right?
Right.
So it was voted on in August to pay them, and you just never did.
It was last time, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just voted on in
It was
August.
not voted in October, that I know.
Okay.
No, it was
No,
not.
vote on
Whenever it was passed.
May I ask, so
Yes,
we
yes,
committed to 7,100 for the library?
No.
No,
How much?
we are not committed to
Zero.
anything.
Okay, I thought we, okay.
And we're not
That's
committed to
just-
the 1,500 in
No.
January for economic.
Correct, we are not committed.
We're doing the project, and the library and the city are asking for whatever consideration you can give us. The project's 7,100. If we only get 3,000, the rest will be coming out of general and MFT.
I
But you
think
have
for-
$0 committed.
So
Thank
we
you,
can
Shane.
commit whatever.
For the sake for Connie and Debbie, they weren't here, for example, when we had the Musselman Swamp Project, if you will, when those poor folks out there were underwater. I forget what year it was, we had all the rain and those poor people were flooded. Boy, did they squawk, because they were up to their knees in water. Well, then we decided we're going to finally do something about it. We got started on that project, and then we voted TIF funds so that we could complete the project and do it correctly. It was an ongoing type of thing. It was, oh my gosh, we got to do something about this. We have TIF funds, we'll use it. We use TIF for that. The school project, for example, I think it was around 40?
A little higher. A little higher.
Yeah, the school has suffered with some serious sewer problems for years and years and years. We went in there, we engineered it using TIF. We completely rerouted and put in some sewer system that would support the school and alleviate the problems they have been dealing with. Another TIF project was the sidewalk at the school. Another TIF project was contributed to the cupola. Another TIF project was the sidewalk at the Methodist Church. So some of the projects that we have done, infrastructure type projects, contributed directly to the good of the city, the welfare of the city, the safety of the city. And some of them were also to the other tax bodies which have lost revenue that the city has gained from TIF. For example, a lot of the money that we're getting in TIF is money the school's not getting. We're taking money that would have gone to them. So when we do these kinds of projects, we're including them and the courthouse. Rob?
Rick, I believe too, and the library too, didn't.
Yes, yes. Yeah, so just trying to get Connie and Deb and Don up to speed here.
Rick, may I address?
Yes,
three
certainly.
too, Donna, on the administrative fees. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we had voted on that because we felt all the work being done and everything. So that project was done, and that's why, and I should have the paper, but when we had our last paper at the last meeting, that was listed as coming off at 79, and that's where we got our
Okay,
figure.
and, because I have to ask this question, okay?
Yes.
Because this says it owes yet $1,500 and owes the administrator $1,500.
But now it's 1,000.
So that's, okay,
When it said owed, I think we had
Oh,
committed, we had
that
committed
you'd already
to those.
committed that,
Right.
okay, so you'd already committed to the 1,500 and the 1,500, that's what's left, okay. And you've already paid out $2,000. So we only owe $1,000 to who?
TIF administrator. And then you
That's
will,
it.
and then you will be reconsidering in January, economic development.
But then this is not, okay, then this is not mathematically correct.
That's all right.
Can't tell me.
We're relying on you to get the numbers right.
So we still have $2,500, $1,000 for the administrator, and a possible another $1,500 in January. And the $1,000 for the administrator will take us up to
The end of
March,
April.
April,
The end of April.
end of April.
And on the TIF administrator, we were quoted $1,500 by a law firm in Peoria to do our report. Simply to file a report. That's bargain basement. That's as cheap as we'll ever get off. We have elected to file our own reports, and we're paying Teresa Macy to basically ride herd on the TIF and keep everyone up to speed, keep all the files straight, and do the report for $1,500.
For the entire year?
Yes, it's a lot of work.
And I will say the report has been filed and nothing has come back, so.
She's
I
done a
take
very
it
good
as
job.
She has done an excellent job. It's worth a lot more than 15, but that's where we stand.
Okay.
Okay? Yes, Rob.
Where I think Donna's getting off, and she's rightly so, when Teresa gave us the figure of $5,290, that was including the January 15th. So you'd back that January $1,500 payment, put that back in the $5,200 if I'm correct, and it'd be $66,798.80 that we will have.
6,798, right?
Yeah, $6,798. If that helps. Donna.
What
Let's,
kids pay.
yeah, now let's see if we can get our numbers right before we move forward here.
Okay, but that doesn't address the analysis.
Debbie, that's if they decide not to pay Stark County in January. It'll be 60, whatever.
67.98.
See this here.
Mike, did you have a comment while we're working on the numbers here?
That 52 is fine for this project. I mean, if that's, so you,
I think we're just, Mike, we're just trying to see, we're just trying to get where we all know, we agree, on how much money actually exists, and how much is committed, and what's not committed, I think. Right?
I think the only amount that's not committed is $75,298.80.
I think that it's pretty close.
Because, yeah, because if we owe her another $1,000, and you've got a possible $1,500 for the economic for January, that's $2,500.
Yeah, and that would leave the 52.98.
52.
That's taking the 70,000 out for the
Oh.
park.
Yes, taking the 70,000 out of the
Yeah,
park,
I
sorry.
think 52.75 too.
If you take 70 out, this is more, then you got 52.98.80.
Rob?
Donna,
Which is-
right now, Donna, we have uncommitted 77,000, no, I'm not uncommitted. Right now, we have 77,798.80. We have committed 1,000 more of that to her, so that will leave 76,798.80, if that helps.
And then you've got the possible the economic committee.
Economic development, yes.
That's the other 1,500, so you actually only got 52.98 left over if after you get 70,000.
Okay, I think the 52.98 number is something
I think-
we can all
Right.
get our arms around.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That was 1,500 for economic.
I'd like to point out that the Stark County Economic Development has become much more active, much more involved in the grant process, and we're doing some work. They even have someone on board now who has experienced writing grants, and I have very high hopes that Stark County Economic Development, working with the cities, will be able to find us some grant money. And there is a lot of grant money out there, things like parks are one area we can get grant money. It's out there. So we have some high hopes that our relationship with Stark County Economic, I need an acronym that really works. I think that our relationship with Starkville Economic Development, I think will really start bearing some fruit in the coming years, or something else will be able to. I'm sorry, Rich?
I have some things to add to that.
Sure. We'll be to that in a minute. Rob?
Well, we've done that, but I think now, if that's what you think, we need to get back to the.
That's where we are. We're back at this motion to leave 70,000 committed to the park and take whatever's left after all these other commitments and use that to defray expenses on the library. Am I correct? Is that the motion? To set aside 70,000 for the park and take uncommitted funds in the TIF to use to defray the park, the library expenses on their drainage project, which would be $5,298 and change. Is that correct? Okay. That is the motion that we have now. Did we have a second on that motion?
Yeah, I mean,
I just want to know who seconded it. The motion was
the
made,
original,
but was it
the original
seconded?
last,
About the last meeting.
Yes.
and then we postponed it.
The motion was made, but apparently not seconded?
Yeah, no, it was second.
It was, but by whom?
Me.
Oh, Don seconded. Yeah. I'm sorry. We gotta get down there. All right, so we have a motion and a second. That brings us to open discussion. That's where we are now. We're discussing what to do with $75,298 and change. Thank you. Are we there?
Yes.
We got there, okay. We're there. All right. Now we can have a discussion.
I guess.
Connie,
I'll say something.
all right.
I think we need to get started on the park. And I do think that economic development, and I think there's a lot of people in the community are willing to help. But I think we need to go, if it's been committed, it's been told to her months and months ago that this was going to happen. So, I guess if I was in Misty's shoes, I'd feel the same way. If I was told I was going to get this amount, I know it's an awful lot of money, and I know we don't really see a lot of plans of what's going to happen, but it's...
We did at the park committee meeting.
But see, now this is something we haven't seen,
But, yeah.
One at a time.
okay?
Keep this in
And
order.
not that I think it's
Connie's got
not
the
going to happen, it's not going to, but I think it's been put off and put off and put off, and I think it's something we need to finally get down and decide what we're going to do, but I think if we initially get started with it, and maybe that's the discussion, is how much we actually need to give them. But I do think that there's a lot of people in this community willing to step up and help. But I think if we get started, then we're going to see a lot more help.
Maybe.
Okay? And then with Rich, I think there's, I think there's grants there, I think there's other things there that are there to help us. And I don't think probably $70,000 this year, $70,000 next year, but I think we need to get started.
I think we all agree that we need to do something.
Yes. And it needs to be, something needs to be done with it.
Yes. Yes. Are you raising your hand? Sorry.
I agree that my kids love the park, we work there all the time, and I'd like to see improvements. I just have a real reservation about committing this amount of money at this time.
Rob?
Well, I don't want to speak for Misty, but we discussed some figures and we discussed some plans and why we were still thinking the 70,000. And so I'd like to if you have that, Miss, I'd like to let you go ahead and so we can talk about it.
Anything else? Well, it's my understanding that the public is still in the dark as to what this $210,000 is going to be spent on. It's also my understanding that the public is very upset at the amount of money that we're spending on the park when we have so many other pressing problems in the community. I did some research and found that in the anecdotal records of the city, there has been one case of a possible broken arm in the city park. A child falling off a piece of equipment. We have never bothered to put the recommended ground-up rubber below our park equipment. We have never authorized the funds to do that. However, I also have learned that there have been 4 instances of citizens of the city of Toulon being injured on Main Street, stumbling over a crack in the sidewalk on Main Street. So I have one possible broken arm in the park in the last 34 years. And I have 4 documented injuries in the last 8 years on Main Street. I would offer that it is the absolute height of irresponsibility for us to commit this amount of money to the city park, which in everyone's lifetime and recollection, and there are people here unfortunately older than me, who cannot remember a time when the city of Toulon spent substantial funds in the city park. It has always been the firemen, the Lions Club, the Ladies Garden Club. It has always been volunteers who have gone to the park, donated equipment, kept things up. We have a 106-year-old sewer system, which is collapsing. I can't think of anything which would concern public health and safety more than the cholera outbreak of 1906, which prompted us to put in a city sewer system. However, we have open sewers in the city of Toulon today. We have sewage running in the city today, and we choose to be unaware of it. We have backups, we have collapses, we have streets which are in dire need of repair. We have sidewalks which are unsafe, we have no means by which people who actually do use the legs that God gave them to walk, no means by which those people can get safely to the library. We have children walking on Prairie Street, which is so highly crowned that there is no place on that street that you could lay a ball and have it not run off the road in a hurry. And this street is barely 16 feet wide, and we have preschool children sharing that street in the ice and the snow with 16-year-old kids driving 4-door, 4-wheel drive pickup trucks. If we're so worried about our children, why can't we give them a place to walk to and from school? Now, I am in favor of a park. I think we should have a nice park. We should go in there and we should do some things. But as of yet, in the last 2.5 years, I have seen not one volunteer in the park. The ladies who have been planting the flowers have all quit. The firemen have not come to the park. The Lions Club have not come to the park. And for whatever reason, and I'm not demanding they do, but for us to commit this amount of money is foolish, it is irresponsible, and I will tell you tonight that there will be no purchase orders placed by the administration of this city in the next 5 months for anything in the park until it is fully understood, fully vetted, and the entire $210,000 has been accounted for. We're not going to go into the park the way we did on the subdivision south of town, where we have $100 and some thousand buried in the ground and not a dime to show for it, not including legal fees, engineering fees, and the like. The amount of money that this city has burned through in the last 7 years is disgraceful. We have decreasing revenues and increasing expenses. I will not be here in May to be mayor, but until such time as April rolls around, we will be as judicious and as cautious as we can possibly be with the taxpayers' money. We will not spend $70,000, we won't spend $7,000. We have a commitment right now in front of this council to spend $210,000. Nobody in this room, with the exception of Misty Turner,